Cakes and Pastries by Asabrasa. It was a normal day in Canterlot Castle. The guards were doing their duty, the maids were cleaning, and the chiefs were cooking. Princess Celestia had just finished her daytime court and was walking down one of the hallways leading to the kitchen.
I really need something sweet and tasty after today's court,
she thought to herself while walking towards the kitchen. She scanned the area for guards or maids. When she was sure she was alone, she let out a big yawn. Nobody would ever doubt the rumors of Celestia being able to swallow a whole cake at once, if they had ever witnessed this mighty yawn. Celestia licked her lips and smacked them together a few times. She was so exhausted after a long day of listening to the spoiled nobles and their petite problem. But she was still the one who listened to anybody's wishes, and more so than often she ignored them. Despite the whole thing exhausted her physically as well as mentally, but there was only one thing that always cheered her up. Her afternoon snack by her personal chef, Wooden Spoon, who would always create the most delectable and beautiful cakes, sweets and pastries for his beloved princess. Simply thinking about all the goodies he could have made her today made Celestia drool.
I wonder what flavor it will be today. Apple pie, zap apple jam with some fresh scones, carrot cake, a sorbet with 4 different flavors, a simple fudge cake.
Celestia almost salivated on the floor, but she caught herself before the string of drool managed to break. After a few minutes of walking, Celestia reached the door leading to Wooden Spoon's private kitchen. She gently knocked on the door, and then she entered carefully and poked her head inside. Inside the kitchen were many used bowls and dirty cooking equipment. Celestia sniffed the air and almost fainted. The smell in the air was cheesecake, one of her favorite pastries. Wooden Spoon knew that it was. Celestia smiled brightly and entered the kitchen.
Hello, Wooden Spoon. I assume you are here. The wonderful aroma of cheesecake is hanging in the air, and I can't wait to enjoy it.
Well, it looks like the fine princes have made to me kitchen, and you're correct, it is cheesecake.
An earth pony with a green coat and orange coat or mane entered from the other side of the kitchen. He was one of the few ponies in Canterlot with a beard. It was a mighty fine one. His flanks were showing off a 4-leaf clover cutie mark, and he was wearing a white apron and a green chef's hat.
Well, my lady, why don't you poke your ears somewhere comfy and I'll bring out the goods.
His Irish accent gave him a manly voice that Celestia could listen to all day, since he usually would talk about cakes and pastries. Celestia did as she was told, and sat up on the balcony, just outside the kitchen. There was a big cup of Irish tea sitting at her table, only waiting for her to drink it. She levitated the cup to her face with magic, and took a big whiff at the tea. The smell alone would be enough to send anybody to heaven and back, and she carefully moved the cup to her mouth and took a small sip. She allowed herself to sigh of absolute joy. Wooden Spoon's tea was also one of the things he was famous for before Celestia hired him as her personal chef. He was the very proud owner of the Drunken Mare, known for delicious pastries and the amassing tea. The Drunken Mare might not have been the most fitting name for a cafe, but it was the name of a former owner had given to it. Wooden Spoon simply wanted to honor the old owner, so he kept the charming name. Celestia lost herself in the flavors of the tea. Her mind was soaring sky high, and she was enjoying the moment of pure bliss. After such a rough day, she felt that she deserved it. Was it not for the aroma of the freshly baked cheesecake in the air? It was clutching her nostrils, and that kept her in the realm of the living.
Princess, are you alright up there?
Celestia stepped back to the reality.
Huh? What do you mean, up there?
She asked him with a small sign of confusion on her face.
Well, if I did not know better, I would have thought you went to heaven and decided to stay there after taking a sip of me tea,
he said with a chuckle. Celestia blushed slightly and covered her face with one of her wings.
You are so adorable, Princess. Sometimes you act like a filly with her hooves caught in the cookie jar.
Celestia giggled a little and smiled warmly at Wooden Spoon.
How can I not act like a filly in your company? You make the best tea-time snacks in all of Equestria. I would lie if I told you that I don't long for this moment every day.
Wooden Spoon placed a slice of cheesecake on the table and laughed.
You always know just what to say to an old grump like myself.
Celestia levitated a small fork towards the cake. For every inch the fork moved, she got more and more excited. Just as the fork was about to make contact with the cake, Wooden Spoon slammed his big hooves on the table. Everything on the table was shaking, and some tea managed to escape from Celestia's cup. In the tumult, she had dropped her fork on the table and was looking at the chef with a concerned and confused look on her face.
Do you really think I would let my princess eat a simple slice of cheesecake?
He said in an angry tone. Celestia was confused, and she had never heard him sound so angry before. She was a little scared.
Without some freshly made strawberry sauce on top of it.
He laughed. Then he proceeded to cover the single slice of cheesecake with a very thin layer of strawberry sauce. The sauce did not stay on top of the cake, though. It slowly flowed towards the center of the cake, through a bunch of small holes that had been prepared. Once the sauce had settled into the cake, it started to change color. It went from a stale beck color to the breathtaking pink. Once the cake had settled, Wooden Spoon smiled at the princess and said in an angelic voice,
Digging, my princess. I wish your taste bud a safe return from heaven.
Celestia picked up her fork and slowly sliced a small piece of cake. Despite all the rumors about Celestia being an unstoppable cake pastry eating machine, she was actually a mare that cherished every single piece of cake. She would never gobble down a cake or pastry. She wanted to enjoy every single fragment of it before she swallowed. The flavors were mind-blowing. This was the very best cheesecake she had ever had. Not a single crumb remained when she was done. She licked her lips, making sure to savor every single flavor, and then she finished her tea and wiped her mouth with a white napkin.
So, what did you think? Don't keep old Spoony here waiting,
he said with a chuckle. Celestia simply stared at her chef. She was unable to describe with words how good the cake was, so she described it with emotion. She walked up to him and embraced him with a big hug. She whispered into his ear,
Delicious.
She continued to hug him for several minutes. Once she finally let him go, she sighed. A Wooden Spoon simply laughed.
Ha 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 ha. I guess this was one of the best then. But don't you worry, I will keep making pastries for until the day I die.
Celestia looked him in the eye.
I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Thank you for such a delicious cake.
She walked out of the kitchen and walked towards her room. The end.